Welcome to Added Time FPL. I'm Mike and that's Nate, and we're gonna talk about everything FPL. We're gonna talk about game week 36, what went right, what went wrong. We're gonna talk about game week 37, which is the double game week, and we're gonna help you prepare here at Added Time FPL. We're just here to help you. And I'm talking because I was ahead of Nate this week. I hit the 100 club. No, I didn't. 99 points.
99 club.
99 points. And Mr. Nate over there got 89 points. So he was behind me this week. And the reason is because I captained Haaland. And he captained Palmer.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk of points over there.
Yeah, it is, because I think if I captained Haaland, I would have been well over 100. So, but no, I was going to captain Haaland, but then we decided to, just for fun, because I was so far ahead, we chatted after and we were like, I'll captain Palmer, you captain Haaland, let's see. Maybe it's the cynical version in me trying to get Mike to catch me so I can actually lose the league like Arsenal. I'm just kidding. We'll see.
I still have faith in Arsenal. So
yeah. I mean, that 100-point gap that you had on me is only down to 50, so it's not too far off.
Yeah. It's not like I scored like 50 points more than you. I scored 10.
Yeah.
10 more points.
But why that doesn't matter, because this week is a double game week. And we've got a ton of players playing twice this week. Let's go through the list, shall we? We've got Newcastle, United, Chelsea, Brighton, City, Spurs. Is that it? I think so.
And we got some tasty fixtures coming up.
Tasty home fixtures.
But let's just recap. Let's recap about what happened in game week 36. What were some of your standout moments from last game week?
Chelsea.
What you mean? Are we 5-0 West Ham and had to fire their manager?
I can't believe.
They didn't fire him.
I can't believe Chelsea's performance. I can't believe Nicholas Jackson's performance. I brought him in, but I mean, I was surprised. I didn't think he was going to get that many points. So he, for me, was my surprise of the week. His form. We all knew Haaland was going to score massively against Wolves. Let's not think that was a massive. I mean, it was, but we're not surprised by it. You know, I'm more surprised by Jackson scoring 16 points. And Chelsea keeping a clean sheet. Sorry, what has happened? Chelsea and then United losing. Are we going to qualify for Europe? Spurs also lost.
I can't believe how rubbish Chelsea have been this season, and we're above United on the log.
I know. But to be fair, our home form is outstanding, to be fair.
I can't believe it. And on top of that, there's a certain set of circumstances that if things go our way, we end up above Spurs and Newcastle. What world can you live in when Chelsea has been rubbish majority of the season and you end above Newcastle and Spurs?
You know what? Before we turn this into Chelsea podcast, the last thing I want to say is that if we didn't bottle those free wins against those lower club teams, we probably could have made Champions League this season.
Yeah, it just goes to show the fine margins.
But you said earlier, you said that we're doing well is because there's no pressure, and the kids can't play under pressure.
They couldn't. It goes to show that maybe, as much as I don't like Ted Bowley and what he's done to Chelsea, gutted it out, and who knows how many Gallagher, Chalobah, and other homegrown players they're gonna have to sell for pure profit. Maybe he's got a point in what he's doing, because we've been rubbish this season, but so have United.
Yeah, and they have an old team.
But which of our two teams look like they set up for success next year? It ain't United.
No, it's Chelsea, actually, to be fair.
It's us.
Also, considering we have 12 players out injured, or 11, that's a big depth of squad as well. So, who knows?
I mean, think about this. We have Thiago Silva, a legend. I don't want him to go, but we're saying farewell to him this season. That's our news media, right?
Yeah.
That's what's coming out of Chelsea. Out of United, you got Jamie Carragher saying that Casemiro must retire from football. So, maybe things could work out for Chelsea in the future. But we definitely a step ahead of United.
Yeah. But FPL was definitely the shock of the week for me. I think pretty much everything else went as expected. Arsenal could have bottled it, but they kept a clean sheet in a 3-1 win against Bournemouth. Good calls from us, bringing in double Arsenal defense, getting some massive haul in points there. Newcastle
came back.
Salah came back. I was working down. Salah came back. Made us regret taking him out with 2 assists and a goal. What can you do? And then you bring him in for next week against Villa, and then he bottles it. I think let's talk about that. Do you think you bother with Salah for the rest of the season, or you just leave him out?
I made the decision to leave him out, and I regret it, because if you look at the top performing players in the Premier League for fantasy, if you look at at the end of the season, I always go back in my mind and go, who should I just left in my team all season? And I would have been ahead of you and won. Saka is one of them. He's off my team right now. Salah's another one. He's off my team right now. And Palmer. If you just keep those 3 in your midfield the entire season, through the highs and the lows, on average, you're going to be ahead of most people.
Yeah. They're the most consistent.
You try and chase the big hitters at different points, and you get to you want to get Foden when he scores, or Doku when he hauls, or you bring in Fernandes on a gamble, and you just miss those players when consistency wise. He probably will score points, but it's a double game week. It's a game we're going to have a little bit of fun with. So I'm saying Salah, not this week. And I don't think they also play with no pressure because the Premier League's effectively gone from them.
Yeah.
I think they've also bottled that one too.
Another interesting point is Crystal Palace's home form continues to be astounding. A 4-0 win against United is a big achievement. And I mean, not too long ago, they beat Newcastle at home and they beat West Ham at home. So there could be some players to watch.
And they're playing Wolves this weekend.
It's away, but I mean, Wolves aren't the sharpest tool in the shed at the moment. And then they got Villa at home. So maybe it's a Crystal Palace angle to maybe upgrade your cheaper forward if you do have one.
I don't know. I think the forwards that we have moving forward in Haaland, Isak, and Jackson are going to be good for the rest of the season. I don't see space in my team for a Crystal Palace player. Look, you never know what you're going to get, right? Mateta, Olise, the midfield is stacked as it is. So it's difficult to find space for them. But if you have them when they pop, man, you must be sitting pretty.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, otherwise, not much to talk about in terms of shuffling up players. I have been preparing for a double game week this week, to a point where everyone except Ben White and Gabriel will be featuring twice. So talk to me about your plans for this double game week.
So I have an almost all game week team. In fact, I do. I don't have the bench boost. And I'm also thinking about putting the Arsenal players on my bench, just like what I would suggest you do. But just keep them there for backup. My problem is this. Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah,
he was the player I was trying to get to that end of season form. I want you just to understand this. This guy's hardly ever injured. Ever. He missed the first game of the entire season.
And then he gets injured. Yeah, and then he's just done.
It was the first game of the season. Like, statistically, I was making a good decision. But FPL looks at you and goes, screw statistics. Like, we're going to show you. Bruno Fernandes is going to show me. So, I don't know. He may be a doubt. So, I might have to bring in a second, a backup midfielder. I see you've gone for Madison, which is an interesting one. And it's interesting because, as we spoke about last week, home form is the foundation of FPL. And what do Spurs have? Two home fixtures. Yes, it's versus Man City, but that Burnley one at home is tasty enough.
Yeah, someone can score a hat-trick easily in that game.
And I also think that if Man City were going to lose the title, they lose it. They lose it at
Spurs.
They lose it at Spurs, and so I think that was a interesting decision on your side.
Yeah, here's the tough part. Just a quick side note is that Spurs and Arsenal obviously are the biggest two rivals. Does Spurs beat Man City to let their rivals win? Or do they throw and prevent their rivals from winning the league? It's
Listen,
interesting,
mate.
eh?
Listen, mate. If I'm Postecoglou, mate, I think he just goes, we have to win. That's
Yeah.
the type of manager he is.
At the
I
end
don't
of the
think
day, the
he's
game's a
worried about
game.
all of that.
Yeah.
He wants to win. I fully hear you. You got the supporters going, don't give Arsenal the title, just give it to Man City.
Yeah.
But I don't want us to be Farmers League.
No.
Because that's what we do. I know we're competitive. But if you just look at the statistics of the clubs who win the Premier League, and someone goes, like, Man City are like the Bayern here.
You put all in on blue.
They're just winning every single game. So I'm trying to think of the best double game week midfielder to replace Bruno Fernandes.
I've gone with Garnacho
Yeah.
from a United perspective. Because they've got the 2 home games. It's against Arsenal. Knowing United, they may end up just beating Arsenal because United are like Chelsea. They're very up and down. They'll lose to a small team or a smaller team and then win the big team. But I know they have 2 very hard fixtures. But I back them to score a few goals though, because they are playing at Old Trafford. And I mean, Arsenal and Newcastle aren't going to be easy. As a Chelsea fan, I'm hoping they lose because we can get further up the table. But from an FPL perspective, I think there are some points on hand there for them.
I think that I wonder if it's still worth it to keep Bruno Fernandes just in case. But you're right, Garnacho with 2 home games is not a bad option either. Another option that I was thinking about is Bruno Guimaraes. Swap Bruno for Bruno.
Yeah. Yes, from Newcastle.
Because we do talk about Bruno over here. So I was thinking about Madison or Bruno from Newcastle.
It's not bad because Newcastle got Brighton at home to start of the week, and then they travel away to United. A tough fixture, but as I said earlier, I'm pretty sure there will still be goals in both of those fixtures. The only team that I really see keeping a clean sheet this season, like this week and next week, is Arsenal. I don't really see many other teams keeping clean sheets anymore. City, were winning 5-0, and then Wolves managed to sneak one in the last few minutes. So
also Arsenal's ceiling at in defense for points is high.
Yeah, it's massive.
White can score points on those clean sheets. So can Saliba and Gabriel chip in with a goal from a set piece or something. So, maybe we should keep our Arsenal defenders, those of us not playing a bench boost, keep them in the game. And then have 9 players double game weeking and 2 Arsenal defenders with single game week.
I do think consistently over a long period of time, Arsenal's defenders have been getting more points than their midfielders over the last couple of weeks. Like, if you had to double up on Saka and, let's say, Saka and Gabriel versus going Gabriel White, I think you'd have more points going Gabriel White than you would if you had Saka in your team. Yes, Saka got a one big haul, but consistently over a longer period of time, Arsenal defense has proven to be where the points are.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's points, you'll find Arsenal defenders trying to keep the door closed to give themselves a hope of winning the English Premier League, which could still happen.
So let's talk about defenders quickly, because I want to find out who do you think you bring in for a double game week. Do you bring back Pedro Porro for those that have taken him out?
Gosh.
Has he burned us too many times?
Everything tells me no. Everything. His points for the last 3 game weeks against the 3 big teams.
Read it out loud.
1.0 points. This guy, he's such a troll. But he's a player that can score massive attacking returns. I do think that Spurs can beat City. I do believe that they can take a point off them. And I know that Burnley is a game that's going to be points, but the biggest factor is I trust Spurs with those 2 home games more than I trust Man United. Just the way the clubs are, uh, with the feel of the club right now, the vibe.
Yeah.
People are so anti-Ten Hag. They've given up on Rashford. The vibe at United is not good. At Spurs, they've lost so many games, and the vibe is not great, but it's not quite where United's vibe is.
No.
So Pedro Porro is definitely an option. However, if you actually do a good job of listening to your podcasts, you know that there's this man named Nate the Great who last week told us that Gardeval was the answer to your defense. And
Gardeval.
guess who scored points? Not 0 points. Gardeval is if you have the spot in your team for a double game week defender, and you don't have Gardeval and you have a Man City spot, bring him in. Do you have any suggestions for defenders?
So other than Pedro Porro, obviously Vardiel I thought about last week. I didn't bring him in, but I did plug him. No one else really in defense. I did have Dan Burn because of Shea being injured for Newcastle, and Newcastle's got their double game week this week. The only other person which would be a bit of a rogue hit would be Dallo from United. I don't have him for the clean sheet potential because I don't think they will keep a clean sheet. I have him for the potential points, because he can get a lot of assists. So other than that, no one really else that's going to stand out for me in defense. However, there's someone in midfield that I've been watching, and that's Anthony Gordon.
Just to comment on your defense first.
Oh.
If anybody told me that they were playing Dallo with Onana's clown defending last week for goalkeeping and United walking around while Crystal Palace just destroys them, I would say you're mad. However, the fact that you're playing your bench boost makes it a really good move.
Yes.
Because even if he doesn't have the greatest game, you've got coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And if he does have a good game, he's in your team alongside the Arsenal defenders. So as for me, it doesn't make sense to bring in Dallo. I'm not going to bring him in, but for you, it's a master stroke. So I think anybody playing their bench boost
could look at Dallo.
Dallo is a free hit possibly, and have him on your bench as a first player. I think we've said this the last couple of weeks. Home form is it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if United surprise us and stop Arsenal from winning the league. Ideal world for Spurs would be that Arsenal lose and Spurs win, so that no one gets any point gap. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, to be fair, because United can do it.
They always turn up in the big teams, and Arsenal over the last 15 games against United have only won a handful of times. United have their number.
Yeah.
So United turn up. I mean, that's just what we need to keep Ten Hag in the job another year. Just give him a nice good win over Arsenal, and we'll take it from there. But yes, midfield is Gordon. Keep going. Tell me any others but Gordon. Why Gordon?
Just because of his form and one home fixture. I just think that if you don't have Cole Palmer in your team, what are you doing? Or if you need a budget midfielder for a double game week, I think you bring in Gordon. Yeah, there's not much to say. I think he's just got some good form recently. So, I mean, I really back him as a player. He's I'll read it off quickly. He, from game week 33, 17 points against Spurs. He blanked against Palace, but then he got 10 points against Sheffield, and then he got 6 points last week. So it's just solid points of the last few weeks. And he's a double game week player. So
I would assume most people have their Chelsea spots filled. However, if you are looking for a differential, there are 2 Chelsea midfielders that you can bring in. Of course, you've already got Cole Palmer. I'm talking about people who are very low owned that could potentially haul. Number 1 is Gallagher. Gallagher's been on the score sheet recently. Yeah,
quite a lot.
Banner
actually.
unfold, and Gallagher is now fighting to prove and make a point that this board at Chelsea must not sell him. So, and he's a guaranteed starter, right? So the vibes is there for Gallagher. Maduake, oh my goodness, we have a player there. Right wing, he's a baller. He just gives off vibes of like, I'm too cool for school. And I think that little interaction with Jackson and Madueke fighting over the ball, it just took Chelsea to another level for those two, where they're really spreading out the goals. And I can see him also the next two games getting some points. He's starting.
I like the pass play. Also, what a ball from Chalobah from the back line, sending it through the midfield. What a ball. Passing it through. And then I'm glad that he took a touch and passed it, because that just shows me that whatever they've spoken about, like Poch has got his hand on it, like they're playing as a team. Because I feel like a month ago, he tries to take that on and misses. So, yeah. Fair play to them. And
can we just agree that there's players we're not mentioning that everybody should have in your midfield defense?
No, for sure.
And there's Foden is a must.
Yeah.
Son is a must.
Yep. Son,
Palmer.
Foden,
I mean, if you don't have Palmer in your team, I don't even know what you're doing. We can talk about captains later. So those are musts. We're just talking about extra options outside of Foden, Son, and Palmer.
Yeah, you should have that core member, those core players. And as far as forwards go for this week, honestly, I don't see any changes. You got to keep Haaland, Isak, and Jackson. They all got double game weeks. They've all been good form. It would be silly to play Watkins over one of them, I think.
Yeah, you can't. They're just really good right now. They're all, like you said, in fair form, and they all look good, and they want to finish the season strong. You have Jackson chasing his personal goal of 15 Premier League goals. You have Haaland wanting to make sure that City win the title and the Golden Boot, and Newcastle want to make sure they finish strong in that Europa League spot, as long as Isak stays fit. So yeah, forwards, I think we got locked in. One thing I did want to just mention is that Gusto is back. He played the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
So I am keeping him, and he is starting from my bench.
From a perspective, those of you that might be asking, what about Nkunku? Because he also featured. I don't think, from a Chelsea perspective and from a Chelsea fan perspective, I don't think you put Nkunku in the team now, because it's too late in the season to try and figure out something. And the way Poch has set up his team has really worked. That Cucurella move to bring him up in the midfield is crazy. I don't think you need Nkunku, so I wouldn't bother him as an asset. I would just stick with Jackson. What did you say?
Yeah, I agree. I think Poch, we already know Poch's front four. It's going to be Mudryk, Jackson, Madueke, and Palmer. And in fact, if there was one player in those front four that I'm not sure about, it's Mudryk. He's the only one that may not start.
But Nkunku won't play on the left. Maybe Jackson moves to the left and Nkunku goes up front, but still, Jackson's going to start. So you'll be fine with Jackson.
It's going to be a tasty week of fixtures.
It's going to be a long week of fixtures as well. The second last week of FPL for the 2023-24 season. Can you believe it? And on that bombshell, let's talk about captain choices, because who do you captain? So many good options.
Well, you want a double game week player. And we said it last week. Home form is gold. And who's got the double home game fixtures? It's United player or Spurs player.
Yeah.
So that kind of means Son is your player to captain. That being said, he doesn't have the easiest fixture against Man City.
No.
So
but he does have Burnley at home.
Against him. Count against him.
And then I would also just double back off on that argument and say, I know Haaland is playing away, but Haaland wants to win the Premier League. So he's also a fair enough shout. Here we go. And I would argue Palmer's also gunning for that Golden Boot because he's in contention. So I think the standout three would be Palmer, Son, and Haaland. I think
Palmer's also home games.
Yeah.
Palmer's also 2 home games.
No,
2 away games.
2 away games, yeah.
So there's the problem for Palmer.
Yeah.
It's 2 away games.
Yeah.
So...
Which means I'm not captaining Jackson, just by the way.
have you noticed that Palmer over the last 2 games, even though Chelsea have looked good, Palmer hasn't looked better than everybody. Everybody has looked okay, good, and Palmer's looked just
I
good.
think he's a bit tired. Yeah, just the end of the season.
Ever since he just hasn't looked like.
Ever since his injury.
He was like a little sick. He hasn't looked the same. I don't know if maybe the chemistry in the team is such that they want to share out the end of the season, and he also like that Haaland 4 goals deleted his list for a golden boot because
Yeah,
what
no.
does he do when the robot scores 4 goals, right? So I think that if you are gonna go for a captain this week, Haaland is definitely the strongest option. The strongest option statistically. And my differential captain, if I wanted to be like, let's mess around and see what happens, would be Isak actually, because I think the Brighton fixture is easy, and what happens with United depends on how the game goes this week, the first one. Because if United's first game goes well for them, then they might build up some steam for that Newcastle game. But if United's first fixture against Arsenal on Sunday is an Arsenal drumming, and they just trying to damage control before the end of the season, you could see Newcastle run riot. And if Crystal Palace can 4-0 them, what's Newcastle gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. Good shouts for captaincy. But there we go. That is what we're thinking for this week. And of course, this will be a long game week. So we'll have a later podcast next week, which will be the last podcast of the year. It's kind of, well, not a year, but of the season. It's quite emotional. 38 weeks, 37 weeks of content. Can you believe it? So for those of you
guess what I heard?
Yeah.
Guess what I heard?
Oh, who told you?
Euro 2024 has a fantasy league for Euros.
Ooh, I think we need to kickstart a Euro League. There we go.
Yeah.
So watch the space.
Watch the space.
But for those of you that have been along, we've appreciated all the support and the viewing and the subscribes. Don't forget to carry on doing that. We would like to get 100 by the end of the year. I think that'd be a good goal. We're on 61, so we're nearly there. I think we can do it.
We better say something controversial.
We'll go viral. We'll get like all the subscribers. But thanks for watching. Yeah, Mike, any last words before we close off? And then we'll see you guys next week.
Double game week. Enjoy every second of it. And knowing that it's the second last game week of the season, enjoy FPL, because even though it's a tough game, we're going to miss it.
Yeah.
But for those months, down season, you're going to miss it. And you're going to miss the weekly updates. You're going to miss the fire, the flare, the
disappointment, the pain,
the depression. You're going to miss it all. So make the most of this game week. Take your shot. Take your chance. Win your mini league. Finish above that man just below you and rub it in their face. Do what you can to make the most of this game before the off season. But thanks, guys, for watching, and hopefully your points are deep and wide, and we see success in the coming weeks for FPL.
Here we go. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week.